Hey, seventh period, this is going to be your assignment. This is review. We're solving quadratics by square root law. So we can use this square root law, right, when our b term is missing. Okay. Make sure you write all this too. You guys can print this worksheet out if you have access to a printer, or you can use separate paper and just copy the problems down and show your work on separate paper, whatever works for you. Okay, I'm going to do the highlighted problems. So there's 20 problems that you need to do. I'm going to do 10 of them with you. So you can do these 10 with me, and you can do them out of order too, which is fine as long as you do all 20. I don't really care the order that it's in as long as all 20 are done. Let's look at number one. So you can see number one, the b term is missing. Okay, so this is an a term, right? Remember, a is always touching x squared. B is always touching x, and then your c value is your number that's by itself. So you can see we have an a and a c value. And so that means that our b term is missing, okay? So let's solve this. Well, I can undo the square by square root for this one. That's all you have to do. So that cancels the square. So r equals the square root of 96. That is not a perfect square, so we're just going to estimate it. So remember, you're going to have two answers when you take a square root, plus or minus the square root of 96, which is about. So you need to have your calculator. Make sure you have your calculator in front of you. Get the practice. Do it on your own. So if I punch in the square root of 96, you'll get 9.79. So it's going to be plus and minus 9.79. That just means positive and negative. Okay. And then we could actually round that to say 9.8 actually. We'll do that. So 9.8. And that's it for the first one. Let's go over here to number 4. Same thing. When the b term is missing, I can get the variable squared by itself, and then all I do is take the square root. That cancels that, so r equals, again, plus or minus. Anytime you do a square root, it's plus or minus. Okay, so the square root of 78, punch that in your calculator. You should be getting 8.8 plus or minus. That just means positive 8.8 and negative 8.8. Those are your two solutions. Okay, next one, number 6, same idea. B term is missing, so we can solve by square root. Okay, x squared's by itself. I take square root. That cancels that. X equals, what's the square root of nothing? Square root of 0 means square root of nothing. It's just nothing. It's not plus or minus. 0 is neither positive or negative. It's nothing. So x just equals 0 on that one. Next one, number 8, you can see the b term. No b term again, okay? But I need to get rid of this minus 4 right here. Okay, and move it to the other side so the n squared is by itself, and so I can take the square root. So the opposite of that is to add 4. Do it to both sides. That gives me n squared equals 77 plus 4 is 81. And now you can see, look, I can take the square root of both sides, and that cancels that, and I end up with n equals. Square root of 81 is a perfect square. That's 9, so plus or minus 9. That's your answer. Let's keep moving. Number 11 over here. Okay, so let's see. Same thing here. Look, so that's an a term. This is a c, and that's a c term. Okay, so there's no b term. B term is always attached to x. All right, so I'm going to get the 4x squared by itself. So I need to add 6 to get rid of that. That gives me 4x squared equals 74 plus 6 is 80. Okay, and then I'm gonna get rid of this 4 as well too, all right, because I want x squared to be by itself. All right, so I'm gonna divide by 4 there. That'll do that, both sides. So now I have x squared equals 80 divided by 4 is 20. And now I want to take that square root to both sides there. So x equals 20 is not a perfect square, so we're going to punch that in our calculator. Let's write plus or minus. Anytime you take the square root, it's plus or minus, positive or negative. Punch that in your calculator. You should be getting 4.5. Remember, you guys can pause this video if I'm going too fast. You can rewind it. You should be pausing it and trying to do these on your own and then watch me. That's how you're going to learn. If you're just copying me, then you're not getting the most out of it, okay? Next one. Okay, we need to get this m squared right here all by itself. Okay, so we need to get rid of that plus 7 and we need to get rid of that 3. So plus 7, I'm just going to subtract 7. That's going to do that. Now let's rewrite it. So now I have 3m squared equals 301 minus 7 is 294. Okay, now I need to get rid of that 3 and I can just divide by 3. I'm going to come up here where there's more space. So now I have m squared equals, punch in 294 divided by 3. We get 98. And then once again, to undo the square, we're going to do square root. That's going to cancel that. So m equals plus or minus the square root of 98. That's not a perfect square. Punch that in your calculator. You should be getting 9.9. So our solutions are plus or minus 9.9. All right, let's keep on moving. So 15 down here, 3 more, 15, 18, and 20. Okay, this one looks a little bit different, all right, because it's not in standard form. It's not in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, this is in factored form, p minus 4 squared. Well, these ones are easy because you can actually get rid of the square right now, right? P minus 4 squared, I can undo that square by square root. Both sides. So now all I'm left with is p minus 4 equals the square root of 16. Hopefully you're thinking that's 4, but remember when we take the square root, it's plus or minus 4. Last step is to simply add 4 to both sides. So now I have p equals, okay, so I'm going to have two answers right here. So I have positive, look, I have positive 4 plus 4, and then I also have minus 4 plus 4. So let's do them both. Positive 4 plus 4 is 8. Negative 4 add 4 is 0. Those are our two solutions for this problem. And if you plug them back into the equation, the original equation, you'll see that they both give you a true statement. All right, number 18 here. Kind of like the last one, you can see the x minus 7 squared right here. But you can also see that we have a 10 that's kind of hanging out here on the outside. So we want to get rid of that first. All I have to do, this just means 10 times this amount. It's 10 times x minus 7 squared. So the opposite of times is to divide by 10. And now I'm left with x minus 7 squared equals 440 divided by 10 is simply 44. Okay, now I can undo that square by square root, both sides. That gives me x minus 7 equals the square root of 44, which is not a perfect square, so let's punch that in our calculator. And we can round it at this point too. That's going to give us 6.6, so I'm going to say plus or minus 6.6. And then the last thing we need to do is add 7 to both sides to get x by itself. Add 7. And now we can say our two answers here. Because remember, we have positive 6.6 and we also have negative 6.6. So we need to do them both. Use your calculator. So positive 6.6 plus 7 is 13.6. And we need to change this to approximately because it's not exact. So we should use our squiggly equal sign here. So approximately 13.6. And then negative 6.6 add 7 is, if you use your calculator, you should be getting approximately 0.4. Those are your two solutions for that one. Okay, last one I'm going to do with you, and I've covered every type of example, so then you can use this as your model to do your other 10. All right. So let's see. I want to take the square root of this part right there to undo that square. But first there's some stuff that's on the outside that I need to get rid of. So for example, I need to get rid of that 4. I need to get rid of that minus 5. First thing I want to do is add 5 to both sides to get rid of that. Let's rewrite our equation. Now I have 4 times 6 minus 1 squared equals, okay, 223 plus 5 is 228. All right, to get rid of that 4, I'm just going to divide by 4, both sides. So now I have 6x minus 1 squared equals, let's punch in 228 divided by 4 in your calculators. You should be getting 57. All right, now look, now I can undo that square by square root both sides. So now that gives me, let's go up here where I have more space, 6x minus 1 equals, okay, the square root of 57, that's not a perfect square, punch it in your calculator. So we get 7.5, so I'm going to say plus or minus 7.5. Okay, and then a couple more things. I need to add 1 to both sides, plus 1. Let's rewrite it because we're not done. Now I have 6x equals plus or minus 7.5. Add 1. I'm not going to do that yet because I still need to divide both sides by 6. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 6, and I'm going to be done. I'm going to be able to get some answers here. So I'm going to say x is approximately, because we rounded, remember, so we have to say approximately. And again, we're going to have two answers, positive 7.5 and negative 7.5. So we have to compute them both. All right, so our two answers are going to be, let's see, positive 7.5, add 1. Put that in your calculator. You should be getting 8.5. And then we're going to divide that by 6. And we get up about 1.4. Clear your calculator. Now let's do negative 7.5. Add 1. Which is negative 6.5, and then we divide that by 6, and we get about negative 1.1, approximately. So those are approximately our two solutions for that one. That was a little bit tougher one. Hopefully that video will help you a lot for the rest of this worksheet. It's okay if you do them out of order. Go ahead and complete the other 10 on your own on the same piece of paper, and then when you're done, submit it to Google Classroom. Let me know, text me on Remind or School Loop or private comment in Google Classroom if you guys have any questions. Talk to you guys soon.